underneath my masks, can you glimpse the parts of me that were my birthright? And that was like, because I've never thought of it as a birthright before.
Right.
Like who I was destined to be and created to be is my birthright.
Yeah. It gives such a sense of value to who we really are and how important it is to do the work to come out of hiding.
Well,
hello.
welcome to 2025.
Oh, gosh. I can't even believe it. And I'm back. Did you miss me? Did you miss me?
Oh, I missed you terribly.
But Laura did an amazing, amazing job in my absence.
She
So
did.
thank you, Laura.
She was right in there.
She was.
Very impressive.
Yeah. I think I might be able to retire.
Well, wait a second. We're completely transformed now. 2025 is
Finished.
we're done.
We're finished.
She wrote the book. We've done the work. Adios, muchachos. We're out of here.
Yeah, so this is the episode.
This is the episode. You know, I have missed you for sure.
Yeah, I've missed you too.
And you can't go away for long periods of time ever again unless I'm in your suitcase.
Okay.
All right.
Yes. And things have finally slowed down with the books and the book. You know, the stuff I had to do.
All that craziness.
Yeah. It's tiring.
It was. And I watched you be tired through it.
Yeah.
There were some very fun moments, though,
Yes.
which were full of joy. I will never hold a champagne glass again in my hand without having to say, to Dr. Merry Seelan, because we did a lot of that.
Yes, that's
So
true.
that was good. That was the
really
celebratory
good.
part.
Yes, that was really good. And I think, you know, what's been interesting for me, having taken this pause and knowing that you and Laura are well carrying this forward, is like I wrote the book, but am I living the book? So like we jokingly say 2025 is the year we are transformed.
Yeah.
But like,
I know. No, don't do that.
okay,
We're not going to go down that road.
No, because we are going to have self-compassion for ourselves.
Because our last episode was on shame, so we're not going down that road. Today, we're talking about something that I believe has cropped up in my life quite a few times. Mary, have you ever been in a situation where you've heard the same phraseology in a short span of time, or it's a concept, but it's like boom, boom, boom?
Oh, yeah. It's like you're getting hit over the head multiple times.
So I'm driving in the car listening to, my favorite radio station, a lot of interviews. And this woman is talking about, she's an artist, and she's talking about the shadow self. And I'm like, who?
Whoa.
What?
Hey, I thought I came up with the term.
I was like, have you been reading Dr. Mary's book? Anyway, so I was intrigued, of course, and I was listening to it. But then there have been a couple of other things where there's been people alluding to this idea of the shadow self. So that's fascinating to me that it feels like maybe you're ahead of the curve.
Maybe I'm being quoted on the radio.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in this particular chapter, we're talking about the shadow self. We're talking about the masks that we wear, which we may not even know we wear.
Right.
Because they came about even through our infancy and early childhood in order to sort of protect us. And I have to tell you, it saddens me. My grandson just turned 6.
Yeah.
And it saddens me to see how the impact of the world is starting to create those masks that he has to put on
Yeah.
because he has to protect himself.
Yeah. Ugh. That makes me really sad too, because I hear you talking about where he'll go and have a situation happening at school and he's just being happy, he's being himself, and then he gets negative feedback about something.
That's right.
And this is the challenge. This is the challenge with the shadow self. And we aren't going to talk about the chapter on self-compassion because we think that the whole entire process of transformation needs to be embedded in this soil of grace and self-compassion, which we've talked about before on previous episodes, this whole importance of self-compassion. Like this work of transformation is not about like how hard I can work, how high I can jump, how much I can push myself, because that's how shadow self came into being.
Right.
It's been all about what can I do to make sure I fit in? And what can I do to make sure I avoid pain? What can I do to make sure that I'm accepted?
Yeah.
And, you think about your grandson or think about ourselves as little kids.
Yep.
And we are just trying to make our way. And so, like, please, as you're listening or you're watching, like, have so much compassion about what life was like for you in the early days. And this throughout the book. The theme is about, recognizing your history, not to condemn your parents or things like that, because they often, maybe they didn't, because maybe you grew up in an abusive home, but often parents did the best they could with the tools that they had. But regardless, the self-compassion is that regardless of how much you understand or have compassion for your parents, or you can look at the impact it's had on you.
That's
and
right.
How the shadow self came to protect yourself.
Yeah. And one of the sentences that really, like, boom, right in the solar plexus, as you would say, this is right from your book. It says, when you're describing yourself, your younger self, you said, underneath my masks, can you glimpse the parts of me that were my birthright? And that was like, because I've never thought of it as a birthright before.
Right.
Like who I was destined to be and created to be is my birthright.
Yeah.
And then these masks keep cropping up and hiding my birthright or stealing my birthright, which is even more scary to think about. And then this idea of, what's the glimpse of your essential self?
Right. Right. It's the whole idea of having gone into hiding. I have to admit, when I think about certain chapters that really were more difficult to write or were more painful, this was one of them.
Yes.
Because I was thinking about old memories of myself as a little kid.
Yep.
And then I was comparing it to how I am now and trying to think through what are parts of my, masks or the social self that I present versus my true self, and feeling like sad that she went into hiding and sort of thinking through why she went into hiding. And so that was like when you talk about that birthright, that hit me in the solar plexus too, because I had to really kind of like sit on that thinking. But on the other hand, it's also like it gives such a sense of value to who we really are and how important it is to do the work to come out of hiding and to be your quirky self. I mean, I was a pretty quirky kid. I mean, that's the
chapter. Because every other chapter, you're telling a story from kind of a clinical point,
right? Where
you're sitting across from a client and you're kind of sharing their story. But in this chapter, you're sharing your own story.
Right.
You're your own client in this chapter.
Right. And so it's memories of myself as a little kid, and some of it was rooted in just the challenges I was facing as a little kid.
Yeah.
But like I said, to say that it's my birthright, because I often think about myself in very negative terms. I mean, this is an issue where our inner critic just is so harsh. So the very trait that actually I see myself as a negative light, if I can flip it around, think of it as a birthright. So the fact that I'm really sensitive has been held against me time and time again. Oh, you're just so sensitive. Don't be such a crybaby. And so I learned to be kind of stoic, but actually I'm very sensitive. I can cry at the drop of a hat. I can be very emotional. And those are parts of myself I'm starting to give myself permission to come out and emerge. But as a little kid, she was there in spades. Like she was constantly there. But the feedback with my upbringing, Asian family, Taiwanese, my dad used to like spank me. And he would say, stop crying, else I'll spank you even harder. Oh. So you're getting this, not just the negative message that being a crybaby is negative, but also that you are going to get hurt if you show that part of yourself.
That's right.
And so
it's going to cost you even more. So like, like how many times as readers are reading the book and are listening, I really hope people linger on this. Yeah.
And do have a lot of compassion for their shadow self. Now, it's not to give the shadow self permission to take over your life, because she or he or them are working in a self-protective mode, and it's not good for you.
Right. And I grew up in an era, Mary, where this phrase was frequent. I heard it all around me. I'll give you something to cry about.
Oh, gosh.
Right?
Yes.
Like there's an Irish phrase, quit your whinging.
What-
which is whining or,
Oh, gosh.
quit your whinging.
Yeah.
But I don't remember, like, I wasn't spanked, but I remember being scolded for, carrying on. So we grew up in an era where it was quite like kids were to be seen but not heard. So if you were outside of that, you were too much.
You were too much. Yeah.
You were too, you were bringing attention to yourself, or you were not playing by the rules of society. So unfortunately, we grew up in an era where if you were a sensitive kid, a demonstrative kid, you were scolded for being just who you were.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
I know.
So painful.
Ugh.
I think today's generation of parents, I hope, they're more aware.
Yep.
We do assessments with people who are neurodiverse, and I love them because they are so outside of the neurotypical. But yet they all tell me stories of really painful experiences. The number of times they're crying because they've been rejected for being different.
Oh.
And so what brings me joy is to be able to say, hey, I like that you're different, like, please. And I raised my kids. And I tell my clients all the time, I raised them to be weird. And what I meant by weird is that just being their unique self. I try to. I mean, well, they're both pretty weird in a good way, don't you
They're
think?
good weird.
They're good weird. Yeah.
Wink, wink, Cameron.
As he's watching off camera.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I think if people can think through really some childhood memories, and also the thing that I think about is the if then.
Yes.
This belief that if I do this, then I will do that. So if I am good, then my mommy will love me. If I do well in school, then I will be accepted by my teacher.
Yeah.
The if then. And
Yes.
how many of those types of phrases have you believed? What would be one for you, for example, that would have affected the way your shadow self showed up?
If I'm too needy or too vulnerable, I'll be hurt. That would be a big one for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think what strikes me, Mary, is we were at a conference together a while ago. And boy, it seems like it was in 2024.
It was like forever ago.
But you were talking about the shadow self, and you made an interesting point, because I was going to give my shadow self a nasty name. And you're like, no, don't do that, because your shadow self was actually there to protect you.
Yes.
It was there to protect you and help you survive. It was a survival tool. And so give your shadow self a nice name.
Right.
So what would your shadow self's nice name be?
Well, I decided, so there's a really funny story. My report card always used to say, my maiden name is Chen. So it always said Mary J. Chen. And I didn't pay attention to it. I was like, what the heck is J? And my parents go, I don't know. And they went, wait a minute. It could be I think it was Jinjang, which was Japanese for joyful, happy, and all that kind of stuff. So I think Jinjang is going to be my shadow self's name.
Okay. So I had a couple of nicknames when I was growing up. My brother called me Baby Myrtle.
Oh, that's so cute. I like
But you
that.
said I can't have an old name. I have to have
No, but baby is okay. As soon as you
Okay.
put baby with it.
Thank you, Stephen, for naming me Baby Myrtle. But my favorite aunts,
Yes.
who were characters,
Yes.
complete characters,
Yes.
they called me Jelly Jukey.
Jelly Jukey.
Jelly
Okay.
Jukey. So I think
Is that a positive one?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
good. All right.
Because they were like larger than life characters in my life, very generous.
Yeah.
Laughed a lot. One of them had these false teeth, and she'd like
Clacker them around.
she'd kind of rattle them around.
I totally
in her,
imagine you doing that when you're a senior.
yeah, she'd kind of rattle them around in her mouth, which I thought was fascinating. So
You know, what's so interesting is you're talking about aunts who are a lot like you and
Yes.
being so funny and like bold. I mean, that's part of your essential self.
my two aunts.
Yeah.
Okay, this was in the 1960s.
Yeah.
When they came to visit us at Niagara Falls, it was hot. So they had these shirt dresses, and they just started unbuttoning their shirt dresses. Off the shoulders they went. And they had like a full slip and bra underneath.
Wow.
But they sat there, Niagara Falls, in their like slips. And I'm like, wow, they're bold as blazes. So yeah.
It's okay. I love that.
I do too.
Yeah. So think about your own shadow self. Think about your history. Think about parts of yourself that's starting to resonate in your spirit as to who you really are. Know if you think about yourself, earliest memories, and think about early happy memories, because unfortunately, I know for many of you, those memories are not always happy. And if you can't, look at pictures of yourself, how you were dressed, facial expression, what activities you were doing, or talk to like family members that might still be around to try to help that. But I have a feeling if you keep digging away at this book, in the story, in the journey, your story and your journey, that essential self has already started to come up to your awareness.
I think so.
Key. And so have compassion for your shadow self, because she or he or they were there to protect you. And it's good. But the key thing, I want to flip it now, is that the shadow self has also prevented you, hidden the true you from emerging.
Yeah.
So it's like the shadow self looks like you, but just a little bit off, because it's self-protection, it's shame, it's fear, it's insecurity. So when they show up now, have the compassion to recognize, okay, I just got triggered. Something happened. And they showed up to protect me for some reason. So if you have compassion for that, then you can sort of self-regulate. And then kind of go, why did they show up, and what's really bothering me, and what do I need to do?
Yeah, and I think that when that shadow self shows up, you can maybe even say, what's making me feel unsafe right now?
It's a really good question.
Because I think that the shadow self showed up to keep us safe.
Right.
So what in the environment, the relationship is making us feel unsafe? I think that might be easier to access.
I think so. And I think the other thing too is we often, this is what I've come to learn as I've learned to be more honest about how I actually feel with myself and with others, is that I often project onto people in my life who love me sort of blame for keeping me in hiding.
Oh.
So I've been fighting more with my husband in a good way, because I've been more honest with him, and he totally appreciates it, because he doesn't know what he doesn't know.
No.
So if something he's doing is triggering my shadow self to show up, rather than going into hiding, it's like, I gotta be brave, and I gotta tell him that when you did A, B, and C, it caused this reaction in me that made me want to go into hiding as my shadow self, or to show up this way or that way. And so there's been so much growth through just being honest with myself, but then with trusted people in your life, where you can kind of go, that was hurtful for this reason, or that caused that reaction. So then on the flip side of it, though, is it's really important to question how resistant you are to letting go of the shadow self. Because another name I use is the idealized self. So it's how we want the world to see us.
Yeah.
And that, like for you, what would that be? What would be your idealized self that it's really hard when life pokes away at that and you feel like you're letting go of that?
It would be the idealized self was I'm strong, I'm capable, and not impenetrable, but things don't get to me.
Things don't get to me.
Yeah. Like I can.
And you are really good at it, because it's only as you become more like evolved, if I can say. Because when I first met you, you were like, you could take over the world and not even like blink an eye.
That shadow self was fierce, man.
Yeah. Now that is part of your essential self too. But that sort of imperviousness, if there is even such a word, was like so. Like, to me, I never felt like you had any needs. I felt like you could take it all, which I knew logically wasn't true.
Because you're a psychologist.
Yeah, I'm a psychologist, but as your friend, I'm not always like self-aware. And there's times where I've said things that have really poked you, and then you've been honest enough to say, wow, that really hurt. I'm like, what? Oh, gosh. Your idealized self that I perceive is that you, like, things don't hurt you.
Well, and it's the same, like it's a two-way street, right? Because, you appear at times to be able to weather
Yeah.
the conflict without being hurt
Yeah.
and to care for others in the hurt,
Yeah.
but yet not care for yourself.
Oh gosh.
So
That's totally my
we
my
do
guilt.
this.
Oh,
We do this silly dance. It's ridiculous.
I know. This is
But now
the
we're
thing.
aware that we're doing it.
Yes, that is true. Sometimes I wish I was aware sooner, but so that's the question now. So from focusing on your shadow self and
Yeah.
having compassion for them and the role that they played and why they came into being and what the emotions are, the fears, the insecurities, the shame, whatever it is to then recognize out of that developed an idealized self. And that idealized self, like, what is it that you do? How much fighting do you do? How defensive do you get when that idealized self gets exposed? So seeing myself as a caring person who has no needs,
Right.
when that gets exposed, I feel a lot of shame. I
Yeah.
feel like weak. I get the whole flush coming down my body, like somehow I've let people down. People are judging me. I have all sorts of feelings.
Yeah.
So when I'm feeling that strong reaction, I know that my idealized self feels threatened.
Yes. For me, it's when I start ruminating over when I think I have overshared. So when I've been vulnerable and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh dear, that wasn't the reaction I thought I was going to get. So I shared something very vulnerable in the area of shame and it quickly got dismissed by somebody else. And afterwards I was doing the woulda, coulda, shoulda. Oh shoot, should I have said that? Like, did I go too far? Like, did I crack myself open too far? And then I went, no, that's their stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I'm okay with what I shared because it was in the right environment. And if that person didn't receive it the way I anticipated that they receive it, that's not on me.
Yes. That
And
is
I think that's so important
Yes.
as we grow and transform, that if we're willing to have the courage to share and grow in the area of being truer to our essential self and our own needs, that others aren't going to get us all the time.
Yeah.
Because they're not always on the same journey and they may not realize how important it is for us to have done that.
Right.
So they may not handle it well
Right.
or the way we anticipate it. And
Right.
that's not on us.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about it later, about the whole thing about belonging versus fitting in.
Yeah.
In a different episode. But like, it's key that this is your journey of growth. This is what you're risking and you're being brave.
Right.
And that other people, in fact, I can pretty much guarantee it, that when you make changes, that you're going to get some negative reactions. But the whole thing
Yes.
is breaking free from letting other people's opinions of you determine who you are and how you show up. That's really key. And I'm not talking about being unkind and just like letting it all hang out.
No, that's not healthy either.
That's not healthy either. It's about as you are coming out of hiding, and you're going to do it experimentally with people you trust.
Yes.
But even people you trust, they're not always in the same place that you'd like them to be.
Nope.
And it doesn't diminish the value of what you've just done and the importance of you continuing forward. And I hope that as you do that, you're sharing it with your RB group because they're also in the same
And
journey.
the RB group is your Rebecoming group.
That's right. That's right. In case people have picked up on that, that the group of the close friends who are willing to
Yeah.
acknowledge for themselves how hard it is. Because this is a really important sort of pivotal chapter that I hope people will linger on and really kind of let themselves have language to express their shadow self, their essential self, and then to give other people permission in their life to affirm their essential self as she or he or they show up, or hold them accountable for when shadow self shows up.
Yes.
Yes.
Ugh.
Anyway.
That's when I need a Nerf gun. So when your shadow self just... we should get Nerf guns.
Okay. Maybe.
So when we're together, just bing, bing, bing.
You just have to take a pillow, hit me over the head.
The Nerf is so much better.
Yeah, that's true.
So this question about what's it like to be on the other side of me is a very powerful question, right?
Yes.
Because when we're able in a trusted, our RB group, Rebecoming group, if we're in a book group together or with trusted friends, when we can ask each other that question, what's it like to be on the other side of me? It gives us a huge insight into how that idealized self comes out.
Yes. Yes.
Because I think of sometimes, when you go into a situation and it's one of those situations where you kind of know you have to behave and watch your P's and Q's.
Yes.
And then you come away from it and you just want to put your pajamas on.
You're exhausted.
And you're totally, that was your shadow self completely showing up.
Yeah.
And masking your essential self.
Yeah. I mean, that's pay attention.
Yeah.
Over the next few weeks. When your shadow self shows up, again, giving them empathy and compassion for why they showed up. And sometimes there's no choice. A lot of times, like in social situations that you do that. But then what is it that your shadow self is protecting you from? And where is your idealized self coming into? And then a little bit of what is your essential self peeking out? What aspect of you is peeking out? And I would love for you, as you listen to this or watch this episode, to really give yourself permission to think about your birthright self. And just linger on that and let that be the thing that you take away from today's episode.
Yes. Good stuff, Mary.
Yes. Well, thanks so much for listening in on this. Please, thank you so much that you're doing this work. Because if you're watching this, you're listening, I know you're following along and you're also doing this work. So we're just here to cheer you on. And as Gillian and I have already said, we are already transformed. So we are your role models.
Yeah.
We are totally joking.
Just call us anytime.
That's right. Anyway, thanks for checking us out. And we'll see you next time. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Fully Lived Life podcast. We hope you found it encouraging and helpful. Be sure to follow or subscribe so that you never miss a new episode. And if you enjoyed our show, please help spread the word by sharing with your friends and family and posting on your social media. Thanks for listening, and tune in to our next episode.